Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take complex source material, your notes, your research, your learning objectives, and turn it all into actionable, fascinating insights tailored specifically for you.
And today's mission is, well, it's a bit different.
It is. We are not talking about leveling up your English proficiency. Not really. We are talking about tuning it.
That's the critical distinction, isn't it? Based on all the documentation you shared with us, we know you're already operating in, let's say, the top tier.
Easily the top 5% of English proficiency globally.
Absolutely. You're navigating these incredibly complex fields, AI, ethics, medicine, cognitive psychology, philosophy, and you do it effortlessly in your native tongue. So the system is already high performing.
So what we're here to do is provide those precise adjustments, the final calibration, maybe a software update to get rid of those last little friction points in real-world high-stakes communication.
And that friction you're feeling, it's incredibly common for someone at your level. It's not about a lack of knowledge.
No. It comes down to, well, it looks like three specific factors. First, just finding suitable intellectual sparring partners who can meet your cognitive scale.
That's a huge one. Then there's the shock of genuinely fast, compressed, real-world English.
And honestly, the third one is just the stress that comes from these high-effort, repetitive learning methods like traditional shadowing.
Exactly. So we're moving entirely away from generalized tips today. Our conversation is going to, first, quickly review the handful of foundational methods that still give you maximum leverage.
Right.
Then we're going to dive deep into customized routines built specifically around your expertise. And finally, we'll spend a good amount of time demonstrating the kinds of high-level philosophical and technical discussions you're actually tuning up to master.
This is the final optimization layer. It's all designed for true intellectual fluency. Okay, let's unpack this foundational set of tools. And I think we need to look at these not as, remedial exercises, but through the lens of speed, efficiency, and automation.
Yes, exactly. Maximum return on minimum time.
Because if you're already reading dense case reports out loud, why should you still bother with what some might call beginner techniques?
That's a fair challenge, and the sources are really clear on this. These methods remain the highest leverage points because their benefits are deeply neurocognitive. They cut straight through those inefficient learning loops.
So we're not suggesting you spend hours on them.
No, not at all. It's about incorporating them briefly, maybe for a few minutes, because they force a kind of neural synchronization that just reading, even high-speed reading, sometimes misses.
And leading the pack, even for an advanced learner like you, is shadowing. So if you're already reading this incredibly dense academic text, why is synchronized repetition still so important?
It's all about the sheer neurocognitive efficiency. It just remains the absolute quickest path to improving your pronunciation, your rhythm, and your speaking speed.
How? What's the mechanism?
It forces this immediate simultaneous synchronization between your mouth, your ear, and your brain. It actually bypasses the analytical part of your brain that often tries to translate before you speak.
Ah, so it maps the sound pattern directly onto muscle memory.
You've got it. You are literally reprogramming the physical delivery system of your voice.
And the sources recommend some pretty specific content here. CNN 10 for that clear news delivery, TED Talks for a more structured monologue.
Or even Netflix English interviews for that really natural back-and-forth conversation. The key takeaway is the time commitment. It's minimal.
Right. Just 10 focused minutes a day can dramatically reset and refine your speaking rhythm.
Moving on, we have chunk learning for fluency. This is just essential for moving past those little awkward stumbles that kind of give away the almost native speaker.
It's that moment of hesitation, isn't it?
Yes. If you memorize English word by word, your brain is forced to assemble every single sentence in real time, under pressure. And that's what leads to hesitation, to stuttering.
It's like building a skyscraper brick by brick during an earthquake. But if you memorize these meaning-based phrases, these chunks,
The whole structural unit just comes out smoothly, automatically. We're talking about really high utility phrases like on top of that, or as far as I'm concerned.
or I'm not sure if that is the case, or the implications of this are profound.
Exactly. And the underlying data on this suggests a really powerful automation threshold. If you can master just 50 to 100 of these common, sophisticated expressions
You reduce the cognitive load in real time.
dramatically, they become these prefabricated modular units that your brain can just slot into any sentence structure, which guarantees a much smoother, more fluent conversation.
Okay, next up is a really specific mental training technique, the 5-second delay technique.
This is a great one. When you're asked a complex question in a high-stakes setting, there's this huge pressure to respond instantly.
And this technique says, don't. It says to intentionally pause for 5 seconds before you even start to answer.
Right. The goal isn't silence, it's organization. You're training your brain to use that pause to rapidly map out the structure of your answer.
So in those 5 seconds, you're thinking, okay, one main topic sentence, then 2 or 3 detailed points, and then a conclusion.
Yes. By prioritizing that structure over immediate delivery, you significantly reduce your anxiety in the moment, and you ensure your answer is intellectually coherent, which is just essential when you're debating AI ethics or a complex medical decision.
That structural discipline feeds directly into the next point, which is conversation frame patterns. The sources confirm that even the most niche professional discussions repeat these specific structural skeletons.
They absolutely do. You could be discussing quantum computing, but the way you introduce a contrasting viewpoint or summarize an opposing argument, it follows a predictable pattern.
So by memorizing these conversational frames, your brain doesn't waste energy on basic syntax.
It's free to focus on the content. Think of the pattern for introducing a complex idea. Basically, what I mean is X, which fundamentally challenges the notion of Y.
Or for giving a qualified opinion. From my perspective, the critical factor is A, though we must concede the validity of B. It's a template.
It's a template for sophisticated thought. Now let's talk technology. AI tools as a game changer.
For the advanced learner, this is arguably the most important shift we've seen. Why is technology so indispensable at this specific level?
Because it finally solves the problem of getting high-level, immediate, and non-judgmental feedback that's tailored to your niche complexity. No human teacher can offer the combined benefits that an AI can.
What are those benefits specifically?
Real-time pronunciation feedback, instant grammar, correction of your specialized terminology, analysis of your speed and intonation, and instant, customizable, infinitely repeatable role play.
Across any specialized field you want.
Any field. We're looking at tools like ChatGPT's voice mode, the Speak app, TalkPal. The power is being able to instruct it to simulate a highly complex, personalized scenario.
For example, telling it to act as the lead researcher in a journal club debate on neonatal ethics and demanding it use specific, formal, technical vocabulary.
And the AI will respond perfectly in context and immediately flag any linguistic flaws in your response. It's an incredible tool.
All right, now we need to shift gears a little bit. We've established that foundation, but those methods alone, they won't solve the unique problems you face when you're already in that elite top 5% bracket.
Right. Now we need to diagnose the specific barriers that are preventing that final, crucial tuning.
And the two biggest, most frustrating ones at this level are, without a doubt, the cognitive mismatch with potential partners.
And the sheer unsustainable stress of some of the high-effort traditional methods. Let's tackle that first one, the cognitive scale problem.
This is such a huge realization for advanced learners. It's often the source of so much frustration. You might pay for an excellent native English tutor, but they likely can't match your intellectual breadth.
I mean, they might be stellar at drilling grammar, but can they fluidly debate AI governance, neonatal ethical dilemmas, and Hegelian philosophy all in the same session?
And use the right high-level vocabulary for each of those domains.
It's almost impossible. And relying on one person to do all of that is the limiting factor. The source material analyzed this phenomenon extensively. It states that virtually no single English teacher can cover medicine, philosophy, cognitive psychology, AI, finance.
All with the depth required for a true peer-level discussion.
Their cognitive scale, their ability to synthesize and debate at your level across all these diverse fields, that is the constraint on your development. It's not your English ability.
So the solution is to stop trying to force a single human tutor to fulfill all those intellectual needs. That just leads to frustration on both sides.
Yes. And the sources propose a really powerful three-axis solution for this. It's a structured combination that's the most robust, long-term approach for balancing your intellectual needs with your linguistic refinement.
Okay, what's the first axis?
The first axis is the native speaker, but you have to use them judiciously.
Meaning?
Their role has to be clearly defined and, frankly, reduced. They're there only for pronunciation refinement, rhythm correction, and confidence building, maybe 2 hours a week maximum.
And crucially, you have to lower your intellectual expectations for that time.
You have to. They are your confidence trainer, your accent tuner. They're not your debate partner for AI ethics. You use them to practice the patterns you've already learned elsewhere.
Which brings us to the second axis, the advanced AI. Specifically something like ChatGPT's voice mode.
This is where the core of your topic-based duck discussion has to happen. AI is just profoundly superior for complex, niche debate, precisely because it has an infinitely scalable cognitive baseline.
You can tailor it exactly to your fields.
Exactly. You can ask it to argue the counterpoints to the moral patency of AI, or to analyze a complex medical case using any JM terminology. And it provides immediate correction on your sentences, your expressions, your intonation, all without tiring or losing context.
It ensures the quality of the intellectual content is never compromised by the language practice.
And the third axis reinforces a habit you already have, but with a new intentionality: advanced reading and reading out loud.
This one is interesting. Why is reading out loud so important here?
Because it's essential for building the physical speaking muscle and for automating the conversion of complex thought into English delivery. The synchronization is key. Speaking shares about 60% of its required muscle usage with reading.
So the mechanics of the mouth, the tongue, the vocal tract.
All of it. Reading high-level, dense material out loud activates the necessary physical structures that you need for high-speed, high-density speech. It ensures your fluency is physical, not just cognitive.
People often dismiss reading out loud as passive study, but you're framing it as an active physical training mechanism.
Absolutely. When you read a book like The Mind Club or Harari's Nexus out loud, you are programming your vocal muscles to handle the specific cadence and density of academic prose. You're preparing them for the real pressure of an oral exam or a high-stakes presentation.
Okay, so that addresses the partner problem. Now let's talk about the stress problem. Traditional shadowing. It works, but it requires this immense, sustained mental effort to speak simultaneously with the speaker.
It's just not sustainable for a professional with a demanding schedule, which is why we need shadowing alternatives that reduce the cognitive stress load but keep the physical benefit.
And the first alternative is something called parallel reading aloud. The sources call this the 70% less stress version of shadowing.
That's right. Traditional shadowing demands you process audio, plan structure, and synchronize your vocal output all at the same time. It's incredibly taxing.
So how does parallel reading aloud change that?
It's simple. You listen to the audio and follow along, but you speak intentionally about 0.5 to 1 second behind the speaker, reading slowly.
Ah, so you give yourself a split-second delay, just enough time to process the sound and map it to the written text before you have to say it.
Correct. That tiny lag time significantly reduces the cognitive strain of trying to match the speed perfectly. But you maintain almost identical improvement in pronunciation, accent, and stress. You get the muscle memory benefit without the mental burnout.
And the second alternative lines up perfectly with your current reading habit. It's called pronunciation reading, or clear reading.
This is your quality control check. Here, the focus is purely on precise sound production, perfect articulation, and careful stress placement. You completely ignore speed.
So, you're reading that dense text, but your only goal is making sure every single syllable and every word ending is pronounced perfectly.
Yes, it's about micro-tuning your vocal mechanics. You're ensuring precision at low speed before you demand high-speed performance. It's about building quality before you build volume. It's how you correct those final, fossilized micro-details in your speech.
Okay, to put all these adjustments into practice, we need a high-efficiency structure. And the sources provide this tightly focused, high-leverage daily routine. It's designed to maximize your results in minimum time. We're talking just 20 to 25 minutes a day.
And this routine is ruthlessly tailored. It's designed to activate English thought, expand your domain-specific vocabulary through active use, train your physical speaking muscles, and correct those micro-errors, all within a time frame that can actually fit into a demanding professional schedule.
Let's walk through the 4 stages. It starts with the warm-up, a 3-minute mini English monologue.
Right. As we discussed, the purpose here is purely mechanical activation and speed acceleration. You're just thinking out loud. You could respond to simple daily questions that change every day.
Like, what's the most important thing I need to accomplish today?
Or something more abstract, like what philosophical question is on my mind these days and why? The key is just non-stop output for 180 seconds. It gets the engine running.
That brief warm-up then preps your brain for the heavy lifting, which is Core 1, 10-minute topic-based deep speaking. This is where that AI debate partner becomes absolutely essential.
This is your core intellectual workout. The goal is to expand your vocabulary and fluency, specifically within those niche intellectual areas that matter most to you: medicine, AI, philosophy, policy. We advocate for a really rigorous themed rotation, leveraging the AI's cognitive scale.
Okay, let's talk about the execution of that. A themed rotation sounds brilliant, but 10 minutes of deep speaking on a technical topic that demands immediate access to highly specialized language. How do you make sure the conversation stays high level?
That's the key. The sources recommend you preload the AI's context. So for Monday's session on medicine, for example, you'd paste a specific NICU case report snippet or a quote into the chat first.
And then you give the AI strict instructions.
Very strict. Something like, we are debating the principle of non-maleficence in the context of a persistent vegetative state in a neonate. Only use vocabulary appropriate for a peer-reviewed journal discussion. Correct my syntax and technical jargon immediately.
So you're actually leveraging the AI's technical vocabulary and its synthesis capabilities. You're turning it into a specialized intellectual sparring partner.
Exactly. And that weekly rotation is so critical because it forces you to actively recall and use those highly specialized registers. If you only practice medicine, your philosophical and economic vocabulary would just stagnate. This routine ensures all your advanced knowledge bases are being actively voiced in English.
Let's run through an example of the kind of intellectual density we're aiming for with that rotation. So Monday is medicine ICU.
Right. A sample question might be, using current NEJM ethical guidelines, analyze the proportionality principle in approaching life support decisions for micropreemies with severe congenital anomalies.
And the vocabulary there has to be precise. Proportionality, non-maleficence, congenital anomaly.
Then on Tuesday, it's a radical mental shift to cognitive psychology. A debate topic could be, analyze the shift in agency attribution when humans interact with large language models, detailing how theory of mind is violated.
So now you need words like agency attribution, intentionality, implicit bias, theory of mind.
Wednesday pivots to pure philosophy ethics. Can an entity built on optimization functions ever qualify as a moral patient, considering the requirement for subjective experience?
And here we need that sophisticated philosophical language. Moral patiency, subjective experience, phenomenal consciousness.
Thursday is AI technology. How will generative AI's ability to collapse information asymmetry reshape the definition of professional expertise in fields like oncology or law?
Vocabulary of disruption, information asymmetry, core competency, professional displacement.
And Friday, we land on economy policy, looking at broader societal impact. What macroeconomic signals beyond GDP are most critical for forecasting a medium-term recession?
Requiring specific terms like yield curve inversion, commodity futures, leading indicators.
The execution for this 10-minute slot is always the same.
Right.
Give a 2-3-minute structured answer, record it, listen back immediately, and then refine your expressions with the AI's help. It's a very rapid feedback loop.
And that intellectual density then has to be balanced with physical training. That's core 2, a 5-minute English reading aloud for muscle training.
Yes. And the goal here is the automatic physical formation of the mouth, tongue, and vocal tract muscles you need for speed and density. You read aloud slowly, focusing on perfect pronunciation, clear articulation, and natural breathing. The thought groups.
You're literally training your facial muscles.
You are. The recommended texts here are highly specialized and dense. Books like The Mind Club or Genesis, or professional texts like NEJM case reports or long-form articles from The Atlantic.
So it's dual purpose. You're absorbing complex syntax while forcing your mouth to physically articulate that complexity?
Exactly. And finally, you finish with the cool down. 2-minute expression refinement. This is the highest leverage micro-adjustment step of the whole routine.
Why is this so important?
Because you're catching automatic errors before they become fixed habits. This is defossilization. You pick 1 to 3 awkward sentences you spoke that day, maybe from your AI debate, and you consciously correct them to a more native style.
Can you give a concrete example of that kind of micro-correction?
Sure. Often it's a grammatical structure that just sounds unnatural because it's a direct translation from another language.
Yeah.
The AI might flag something like, AI has agency depends on context.
Okay.
The native correction you would focus on is, whether AI has agency depends on the context. It's a subtle but critical shift in structure.
Or refining professional phrasing, like changing, I think this problem very serious in NICU.
To the more sophisticated and nuanced phrasing, I find this issue particularly serious in the NICU. This focused, brief correction prevents the long-term fossilization of those non-native patterns that hold back the top-tier learner.
All right, we've thoroughly tuned the speaking output, but now we have to address the receiving end, listening comprehension, specifically what the sources call the 60-70% gap phenomenon.
Ah, yes. This is where you understand standard academic English perfectly, but you still struggle with natural, fast colloquial conversation.
And I want to stress, this is an absolutely normal, predictable stage for a high-level learner.
It is. The core problem is that standard academic English is not real-world English. If your main intake is highly technical text from medicine and philosophy, you've optimized your brain for structure and precision.
But you're going to be consistently caught off guard by the fluidity, the speed, and the compression of everyday conversation.
Real-world English is incredibly messy. It's full of heavy contractions, kind of wanna-gonna, regional accents, intense speed changes, slang, emotional nuance, and very often the omission of entire parts of sentences.
This linguistic compression makes it so much harder than any written academic paper.
The gap exists because your brain is optimized for precision, but natural conversation optimizes for speed and social connection. We need to explicitly train your brain to process that compressed, high-speed audio signal.
So we start with content and speed training. The sources strongly recommend forcing yourself to listen to fast, unsubtitled interview content at 1.25x or even 1.5x speed.
This is just non-negotiable for mastering rhythm and natural contractions. You need content that is highly conversational but still intellectually stimulating.
The recommendations are things like YouTube interviews from CBS Sunday Morning or Vox Conversations, and podcasts like The Daily Radio Lab or Hidden Brain.
Right. They feature natural, unscripted speech, not the over-enunciated delivery you get in some news broadcasts. And there's a difficulty ranking to be aware of.
Right. The research suggests that NPR content is typically more challenging than CNN, which is harder than the BBC, which is often harder than typical YouTubers.
So you need to find that sweet spot. And alongside speed training, you need slang and contraction-specific training. These are the seemingly minor expressions that cause that 20–30% comprehension loss.
Things like high-frequency filler phrases that carry a lot of meaning, like "I mean." Yeah. Or
Yeah, and the common compressions like kinda sorta, or reactive phrases like "no way, that's insane, that's wild," or "fair enough."
and we absolutely have to mention the pervasive use of for quoting direct speech, as in she was like, "I don't know what to do about it."
If you're only expecting he said or she stated, those common speech patterns will consistently trip you up. Using an AI to practice casual English with these explicit contractions and slang is a perfect way to close this gap quickly.
So to structure all this training, we turn to the comprehensive 30-day listening program. This moves you systematically from basic pattern recognition to advanced intellectual application over 4 focused weeks.
And the foundation of this whole program is the looping 3-step method for any segment you find difficult. It's precision sound training.
Walk us through those 3 steps for a challenging, say, 10-second snippet of speech.
Okay, step 1. You listen to a 5-second loop of it over and over until you can map the sound precisely in your mind, no transcript yet.
Okay.
Step 2, you attempt a full sentence dictation. You try to write down what you're hearing, mapping that sound to text, even if you have to guess the contractions.
And then step 3.
Then you finally look at the transcript and practice following the exact rhythm and intonation, making sure your internal processing matches the native delivery.
So let's detail the focus of the 4 weeks. Week 1 is all about real speech pattern training.
The goal here is strict rhythm and contraction adaptation. You listen to fast-paced, unscripted content from sources like Vox or Wired interviews. Your only job is to check off the high-frequency contractions, gonna, wanna, kinda, sorta.
Week 2 then shifts to mid-level conversational listening.
The focus moves from pure compression to natural casual English and slang. The content could be vlogs or narrative podcasts like Hidden Brain. The exercise changes. You listen to a 1-minute clip, note the slang you hear, and then practice summarizing the clip in 3 sentences using one of those new phrases.
Forcing you to internalize it.
Exactly. By week 3, we move to fast speech compression training. This is the highest intensity listening week.
Using rapid-fire, dense content like NPR's All Things Considered or Radio Lab.
Yes, and the core exercise is that 10-second looping. You repeat a segment until 80% of it is clear, forcing your brain to process the compressed sound rapidly without mentally translating.
And finally, week 4 is the advanced culmination. Advanced topical listening optimized for your professional specialties.
Right. We shift entirely to complex content. The Any Jam podcast, Lex Fridman interviews, The Economist audio edition. And the goal here is structure analysis. You listen for 3 to 5 minutes and summarize the complex structure of the argument.
Identifying the problem, the claim, the evidence, and the conclusion.
And then you pull out 5 advanced niche expressions from that segment and immediately use them in a 1-minute speech of your own. This whole program bridges that comprehension gap systematically.
Okay, so we've built and we've tuned the entire communication system, and now we arrive at the destination. Applying this mastery to high-stakes intellectual discussions. This is that IELTS 8.5 to 9.0 level, the graduate oral exam standard.
Right, and we're going to use the sample discussions provided in the sources as anchors to explore how your new fluency allows you to navigate these complex topics with native-level precision and depth. The goal is to move beyond just reciting facts to actually debating the structural tensions between these big ideas.
Let's start with the AI and mind attribution debate. When you're asked what it means for an AI to have a mind in a non-physical form, the immediate response in the sources is to pivot away from a biological definition.
The core argument is that attributing a mind to a non-physical AI is fundamentally about recognizing complex patterns of agency and responsiveness. It's a functionalist view over a physicalist one.
So it's about what it does, not what it's made of.
Precisely. AI operates through optimization functions. It lacks the foundational human experiences of pain, survival, attachment. But if it acts autonomously, contingently, or unpredictably, humans will psychologically interpret that behavior as mind-like.
Why?
Because we just lack a better cognitive category for that kind of intentional seeming behavior. And this ties directly to why we anthropomorphize things. It's not a sentimental flaw, it's a deep-seated cognitive default.
We evolved to over-detect agency.
For survival. Think about our early ancestors. The cost of a false negative failing to notice a predator in the grass was so much higher than the cost of a false positive imagining agency in a rustling bush.
So our brains default to attributing intention to fill in the gaps.
Exactly. When we encounter LLMs or advanced robotics, that ancient survival mechanism kicks in, and it makes us see intention where there's only sophisticated computation.
And if that attribution of agency is misaligned with the physical reality of the thing, we hit the uncanny valley.
The uncanny valley is a cognitive prediction error. It happens when our expectations about agency and physicality get all mixed up.
When something looks almost human but behaves mechanically.
Or when something exhibits mind-like behavior without a proper physical form. It violates our intuitive categories of personhood. The discomfort we feel is fundamentally a mismatch between our predictive models of reality and what we're actually observing.
This high-level framework provides the vocabulary for what is probably the most critical discussion area here, the ethical gap between agency and patiency.
This distinction is crucial for modern ethics, especially in clinical settings like neonatal care. Medical AI exhibits very high agency. It can perform diagnostic scoring, offer a prognosis, guide treatment protocols.
But it has zero patience.
Zero. It cannot suffer, it cannot be harmed.
And I find that imbalance deeply concerning. Why is it so dangerous to grant high agency to a system that can't suffer consequences?
Because humans naturally tend to moralize entities that possess agency but lack vulnerability. If a medical team or a patient views an AI as this infallible decision maker with agency-like power, but the AI bears no moral burden and can't suffer the consequences of an error, it radically shifts accountability.
Who is accountable? The programmer, the user, the hospital, the opaque algorithm itself, especially in a context like neonatology, where the emotional stakes and the uncertainty are already enormous.
And this brings us to the definition of moral patient status.
Right.
The analysis hinges on capacity. For an entity to be a moral patient one that we owe moral consideration to, it typically must have the capacity for subjective experience, for self-awareness, or for suffering. Current AI lacks this entirely. It can simulate distress, but it doesn't feel distress.
But the sources do acknowledge this chilling possibility that if an AI simulates emotional expression or distress cues flawlessly, human perception might grant it moral status anyway.
Regardless of its lack of underlying consciousness. And that is the meta-ethical challenge that will reshape law and society. Should moral status depend on actual phenomenal consciousness, or merely on our convincing perception of it?
Okay, let's shift to the professional domain and discuss professional authority and uncertainty. How does AI challenge traditional professional identity, particularly in medicine?
AI fundamentally disrupts authority because it dismantles the link between expertise and identity. Historically, professions like medicine and law were built on information asymmetry.
The expert possessed knowledge that the layperson did not.
Right. Diagnostic criteria, legal precedents. AI collapses this asymmetry by democratizing access to perfect information instantly.
So if expertise is no longer about just possessing knowledge, where does the physician's authority shift to?
It shifts profoundly. It moves to interpretation, ethics, and relational judgment. The physician is no longer primarily an information processor. They become an interpreter of uncertainty and a guide for human values.
The NICU setting is a perfect illustration of this. The technology can assist, but the decision to withdraw care or pursue aggressive treatment remains deeply human and value-laden.
Which leads us to reframing uncertainty itself. Uncertainty is often seen as a weakness, a flaw in clinical practice, a failure to know.
But the sources argue it's not a flaw.
Not at all. Uncertainty is the fundamental condition of clinical work. Even with all the data in the world, physiological responses vary wildly, and long-term prognoses are probabilistic,
So the best clinicians are the ones who develop a high tolerance for ambiguity.
and who rely on transparent, empathetic communication to manage that necessary ambiguity with families. Your role shifts from being the oracle of truth to being the transparent manager of probabilities.
Lastly, let's just touch on trust in technology. Why do we trust some automated tech, like a stable autopilot system, but we distrust opaque systems like generative AI?
Trust depends heavily on predictability, transparency, and a perceived alignment of values. We trust an autopilot because its mechanics are clear and its decision trees are deterministic.
But we distrust advanced AI because its reasoning is opaque. It's a probabilistic black box. We can't fully verify the pathway to its output.
And that's the paradox. We often trust AI for objective tasks like reading X-rays, but we deeply distrust it in sociocultural or ethical domains.
So ultimately, trust is about perceived intention.
Intention and transparency, not just accuracy. When the AI fails, we need to know why it failed in order to rebuild that trust. Opaque systems prevent that trust rebuilding process from ever happening. Outro.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, moving all the way from those foundational techniques to the highly customized 20 to 25-minute daily routine. We've established that for someone at your level, the goal isn't just general improvement, but precise tuning for maximum intellectual performance in your specific domains.
The final synthesis is this. You are already top tier. Your immediate challenge is integrating your deep, specialized knowledge on AI, philosophy, medical ethics with natural, high-speed, and complex communication, both spoken and heard. Use that three-axis approach to overcome the cognitive scale limitation and leverage the 30-day program to conquer the complexity of real-world contractions and conversational pace.
Now, for our final provocative thought for you to chew on this week, building on this deep dive into the nature of truth, plausibility, and generative AI.
Truth has traditionally meant correspondence with reality. Did the statement you made match the facts of the world? But, as generative AI can instantly create content that is highly plausible, grammatically perfect, and incredibly convincing, yet is entirely ungrounded in fact.
Content that can achieve viral consensus without any verifiable correspondence to reality.
The traditional definition of truth is fundamentally challenged. If plausibility replaces verifiable correspondence as the standard of truth, this places an immense, almost overwhelming burden on human critical thinking and judgment.
It demands that the expert, like you, becomes not just a possessor of knowledge, but a ruthless interrogator of information's origin and its intentionality.
And this requirement, the need to discern truth in a sea of perfect plausibility, is the next frontier of knowledge application that you are now uniquely tuned to navigate.